Welcome to the flat pack. All right.
How do you sleep at night?
Hello and welcome back to episode 5 of the Racing Post Flat Pack, the show that takes you by the hand and leads you through the flat season, whispering sweet nothings into your ear. We're going to be looking back at what just happened over the weekend. If you could have kept up, we had some super sprinters at Newmarket, of course, on Saturday, and then we'll be looking forward to more super sprinters in the super sprints at Newbury this weekend. And it's not been a good week for the Tory party, but there could be a Tory party at the Curragh on Saturday. That's right. I've chosen to say that out loud. My name is Ross Brierley. Once again, I'm joined in the box in Leeds by two very sweaty gentlemen, actually, because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's absolutely baking hot outside, and we've dressed accordingly. Keith Melrose there with a lovely teal t-shirt, Keith.
Exactly. I'm disappointed the crowd. I promised them maroon.
You did, yeah. You said last week that it was the yellow, maroon 1-2 rhubarb and custard.
The maroon's sitting in a bag over there. I just couldn't bring myself to stick it on, so you've got teal.
I think anyone who wears a jumper in this weather is immediately sectioned, so I think it's a good...
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you're trying to get down to a lightweight for a ride this afternoon.
No, I'm not trying to get down to 15.3.
No. Good luck with that. And Matt Gardner, everyone's favourite local golf professional.
Yeah, golf leisure, off the golf course and into the bunker.
Yeah, you look like you're going to be picking up a cheque for 49th place, maybe on the verge of obscurity.
49 out of 49.
Yeah, about 48.
Yeah,
Everyone else is retired.
Tailed off. Yeah, that's about right.
You that looks moisture wicking. It looks
like
the heat.
It was cool on the walk in, so could be worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm. This is me being defensive, if anything, because I, of course, am refereeing later on. So I do have to get that off the bat. But welcome back. If you haven't watched the Flat Pack before, like I said, we are here to take you through the flat season and make sense of the form lines as well. Hopefully pick out a few lessons and a few things to take forwards and find some interesting angles, because no matter what the weekend, there's always something to get excited about during the summer. And we start every show with one lesson learned. What was the big thing we learned from last week's racing that we can take forward, or most likely forget and have to remind ourselves at this time next year? I'm going to come to you first, Matt. A bit of a change, bit of a curveball for you there. What did you learn from last week's racing?
So just a little bit on subsequent form and how races work out. Obviously focusing on the 2-year-olds this year, Ascot so far is sort of the pinnacle that we've had. And I'm as guilty as anybody of thinking winners have come out of that race. So it's good form.
Yeah.
But you have to always try and remember, what does it tell me about the race? Does it tell me anything new? So just an example, the Coventry. So Persian Force came out and won. He ran a pound higher than he did at Ascot. Lakota Blue came out and won up at Carlisle and was a stone below his Ascot form. Horses that got beat, Blackbeard and Age of Kings, both came out and ran better than they had at Ascot. But none of that really tells me anything about Bradsell, if you know what I mean.
I was trying to work out what does that tell us about Gardner?
So it's just a case of, if winners come out, it doesn't necessarily have to change your opinion of the race or your opinion of the winner. It can do. Obviously in handicaps, it might be a case of you beating in-form horses, which is important in handicaps at the level, that sort of thing. But don't sort of fall into the trap of thinking 4 or 5 winners have come out of that really hot. Think, what have they achieved in winning races, and does it tell me anything new about the horses that sort of beat them that day?
You rated the Coventry fairly positively at the time, didn't you? So it's when winners start coming out of the race, you've got to go to yourself. It's easy to take it as a confirmation bias and go, oh lovely, there's winners coming out of it, I was right to rate it high. Those horses have to run to those levels to justify the high view you've taken.
Yeah,
so absolutely. At the very least, I guess you're looking at it, and does this it's almost like you've always got to look to it and go, is this form being let down rather than confirmed sometimes?
Yeah.
If 5 horses came out of a Group 2 and ran in listed company and got beaten outside, you'd think, okay.
Yeah, you're dealing with evidence, basically. And that the Coventry is a piece of evidence, and then you have supporting evidence or not subsequently. So does that confirm or kind of take away from the opinion that I had of the Coventry, and sort of why does it, and does it change my view on the winner, the placed horses, that sort of thing.
Okay,
You'd absolutely expect the horses in that 3-4 weeks since the Coventry to have improved a pound or two, and that seems to be what they're running to.
Yeah, there or thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Matt. Your lesson this week, Keith Melrose.
It's to not be as readily put off by jockey bookings.
Okay.
Now, we had the 3-year-old Heritage Handicap on Thursday last week at the July meeting, and
That was the race you were getting insanely excited about.
I was, and I've got excited about it. We'll talk about it more in the projection, the reflection section. But the horse, I only backed Ingrator in the race in the end, and I went.
Was that which one, sorry?
Ingrator, who was
of course,
far side, no chance. And Lethal Levi was on the shortlist because I mentioned last time on my notes that it hadn't gone right for him. He's still improving. And I saw Jimmy Quinn was up, and I thought, if Clifford Lee, he's not right. No, I'm not going to do that. But Jimmy Quinn gave it a damn good ride.
Yeah.
That was exactly the right sort of ride for the track. It was mostly because Lee couldn't do the weight, really. It was £3 below his minimum, and Jimmy Quinn's obviously a very well-known lightweight jockey, but he gave that an absolute belting ride.
Quite, I'm not saying easy, but it's like, with something like that, you maybe look at it a bit more, in more complexity and go, well, hang on a minute, all he's going to do is just blast off in front.
Well, yeah, and he came from a higher stall than you'd think. He came from 14 and ended up sort of middle to near side. To make it. So there was a lot of calculation in that ride. You sort of assume that Jimmy Quinn's riding this just because he's light. They needed somebody light, we'll just get Jimmy Quinn up. But, he has given that a great ride. There was no reason. The horses what's interesting.
Yeah.
And we're too easy to mark down horses on grounds like that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. The lesson I learned last week a little bit was staking, which is always a tough thing, isn't it? It's always tough. You can be the best judge in the world, you can be the best analyst, you can pick out winning bets left, right and centre, but if you have 1 point on a 3-1 winner and 500 points on a 5-6 loser, you're going to do pretty badly. But so what I do with the speed figures is I have upgrade races where the figures are much better than you would expect for the grade, make a list of them, and then have a short list that tells me each day who's running out of those races. And obviously, some horses might run in 2 or 3 upgrade races. And then on that list, you've run in that one, you've run in that one, and you've run in that one. And there was a couple last week. Blatant was one of them, who'd done a really good, much better figure at Leicester than I was expecting. And then that Woodcut was much better than I thought it would be at the time. And there was also Miss Jungle Cat at York, who had won on debut and then run in 2 races, and seemingly people thought, underperformed. But they were really, really strong form races. And they had the double tick, they both won, and I probably had about the same on them as I would other horses. So I've got a system that is doing the upgrades, that is having the qualifiers, yet when that system says you've got a double qualifier here, I'm not taking note of it. Now I learned that lesson, and my first bet off that, which I upgraded my stake, was at Windsor last night, and it got beat a short head on the line. So it doesn't always work out, obviously, but I've still learned that lesson.
Yeah, it does. When you're only backing one horse a race, I'm starting to learn that too, that you do need a bit of resilience in any system because there's so much variance involved in backing one horse in a race.
There is. Yep. There is plenty of Roger variance involved in that. If you want to tell us what you learned from last week's racing, or just in general, or what have you learned from life? How are you at home? Are you okay? Let us know in the comments. Comment below, and we'll get in touch. We'll reply to you. So just be careful what you say, because we're going to come round to your house, knock on your door, and have a polite word. But Jim Frater got in touch last week, and he said my learnings this season have been to follow Shadwell sell-offs, especially if they stay with the same stable, which, from what I could tell, was only one qualified for Dermot Weld, but did win quite nicely. But there have been a few Shadwell sell-offs which have gone on to bigger and better things. We touched on the Horse Watchers last week, but also Ichterak went from Owen Burrows to Sir Michael Stout and won the week before last as well. So, Jim, I hope that turns into a profitable system for you. But that just about wraps up the lessons for this week. Let us know what you've learned in the comments below, and you never know, we might read it out next week, providing it's very clever and very complimentary. Let's have a look back into the past then at last week's racing. Plenty of action to go through. The July Festival, of course, Ascot, York, pretty much 50% of the racecourses in Britain had a meeting at some point between Wednesday and Sunday. But we're going to pick out the best bits, the angles, the things to take forward, basically sorting the wheat from the chaff. And we, of course, look back and look forward in this show. And when we look forward last week to what we're looking back at now, we took out a couple of pointers. And one of those, Matt and Keith, was Graham Rodway, or Les Dawson, if you were watching last week. His theory about following front runners at the July course last week. Now, there's a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of form lines from Newmarket last week, but as ever, it was a pretty profitable angle. We had 5 winning front runners, pretty much who made all last week. SPs are 16s, 11-4, 4s, 16s, and 9-1. And some of those were probably a little bit more surprising than others. Some of them you could have seen them come a mile off. But if you'd literally sat there on Betfair and gone, right, I'm going to have a click on the horse who immediately jumps into the lead, you'd have had a very, very profitable week.
Absolutely would have. Well, Lethal Levi I already discussed. And
Yeah.
That was one of those races where everything in that race is interesting, bar the winner. And the winner's had his day. He's won by 2.5 lengths. He'll get smacked. He's not going to, he'll go right up in the weights. He's not going to be potentially winning any handicaps near at hand. There's so many interesting horses behind. Admiral D possibly wants to go back up to 7. Mm-hmm. You had the 3rd place horse was the Shadwell horse that's got more to come, Kanjar.
He looked green as grass.
Yeah, he's just a big baby still, isn't he? A little bit the same with the Judmont horse, who he's in the International on King George Day. Deodar. He's in the International on King George Day. I might back him for that race,
Yeah.
And just loads of interesting horses. The winner got a great ride and therefore isn't actually going to be that interesting because he listened to Les Dawson.
He did. Who was playing all the right notes in the wrong order. Matt Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there are way more sort of spurious theories in horse racing with a lot less underpinning them than that one, and there's a lot goes into that. In the articles, the track layout and all that sort of stuff. There's so much supporting evidence that suggests that why it's favoured, but it sort of still in a way gets overlooked a little bit in favour of kind of less supported
draw and
ones.
Form and ground.
Well,
jockey bookings.
Jockey bookings, yeah. Well, you talked about jockeys. We talked about lessons learned as well. The jockeys seemed to learn the lesson afresh, didn't they?
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. So this is a big thing. So obviously, especially with a festival, you look at it and you think, right, here's what I want to approach, how I want to approach it. But over the course of 3 or 4 days, they're human beings on top, and there's a lot of, we spend ages analysing form and horses, but human psychology is a big thing in elite sport. And you did get the feeling, like I said, so on Thursday, front runners finished unplaced, second, first, third, fourth, first. Then on Friday, unplaced, first, unplaced, second. Then on Saturday, the Ismail Mohammed horse made all and won. And then you had no more winners after that and a few placed. And you got the feeling, there was a few races on Saturday where they went an insane clip up front. And you think, so at what point did the jockeys go, aye. Maybe Les Dawson had a point here. But then it completely ruins the...
There's going to be a tipping point somewhere, isn't there? Yeah.
As Ben Shepherd would say. You're a bit Ben Shepherd, aren't you, Matt? There's a bit of Ben Shepherd in you.
Ben Shepherd? Yeah. Well, I've not heard that one before.
What do you reckon?
I've been called worse, I suppose.
Yeah,
probably.
That is probably fair.
Yeah. Anyway, as you were.
The problem, we see it with the draw stuff, don't we? Groups, Ascot, that sort of thing. It's very much a trend thing, almost from race to race it swings there, doesn't it? But there probably is good luck spotting it, but there's probably a tipping point in a festival meeting somewhere.
The most pace collapses I've seen in sprint races this year have been at York and Epsom, notoriously fast courses. Once jockeys know about it, then you're far more likely to get rides that sail close to that wind and potentially go over. There was a massive pace collapse in a race at Epsom in April over 5. I didn't think you could go too fast over 5 at Epsom. York, we know, is a bit the same, and this is, Newmarket's a more subtle example, and therefore it took a couple of days of it coming up for them to go, right, well, let's push this a little bit. And a few pushed it too hard.
Speaking of front-running rides, Prosperous Voyage, Rob Hornby had a lovely week. Prosperous Voyage downed in Spiral at 1-7. I think people have already got bored of the Dettori headlines, haven't they, with that kind of thing?
So did we make it? Was there much made of the fact that it's the joint shortest beaten group horse we could find on the Racing Post database? Is
it?
Yeah. 1-7. Yeah. Don't ask me the other one.
Don't ask me. Oh, come on, Keith. This is.
I don't know. I didn't see it.
You've let 2 nerds down here.
I have let 2 nerds down. I was writing the July Cup analysis when that came up. I didn't have time to do the actual research, but so no horse shorter than 1-7 has lost a British group race.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that is fairly significant, to be fair.
Yeah.
But obviously, Prosperous Voyage second in a Guineas, second in a Fillies Mile as well, behind in Spiral last year. So had plenty of Newmarket form, as did in Spiral. But you got the feeling Rob Hornby I mean, a prominent racer. Basically, everything went wrong at Ascot for Prosperous Voyage, and Rob Hornby thought, "I know what I'm going to do here. This is going to work out.
It's different
better."
here.
Yeah. But even then, it looked like the favourite maybe had the measure. What do we take out of that race, apart from the fact that it was, 5 runners maybe a bit slightly suspect form-wise?
I mean, I always look at horse, like Inspiral is still really promising, I think, but to do what she did at Ascot after a setback, 8 months off, absolutely hose up. Maybe Dettori's worst ride, as it turned out, because of the mark that it left on the horse. It's a huge performance, and then a relatively quick turnaround. So then,
what's the word? What's the word?
I'm not going to say it.
Don't say it.
You're not going to say it.
Don't say it. We're going to leave it to Ross. It's Ross's moment.
Yeah.
I can't. There's too much pressure now. Let's all say it. And for 3. 1, 2, 3. Bounced.
All right, sorry, I was trying to do you. I was trying to make it was just be Ross.
Yeah,
Sorry.
fair enough.
No, I've been done there.
Well,
bounce.
a team player.
It's
I'm liking you a lot more, Matt, this morning. I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the bounce, isn't it? We sort of suspect she's bounced, don't we, after that big effort to win at Ascot? Because, running to 125 takes out a horse. Or what is it she ran to? 1, 2...
2, 3, something like that. Yeah.
Running to that sort of figure, unless you're Frankel, running to that figure is going to take it out of you.
Yeah. Okay. So, so how do you overcome them? Do you just have to give her another break? As in, was it a mistake to run her so quickly?
But this is the thing, we talk about bounce theory, but there's no one size fits all to it. She might not have been a horse that bounced at all. She might be a horse that can now come out and run next, in 3 weeks' time, or she might need another break.
So you literally don't know until you've tried, basically.
No, the safe thing to do is give her 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I would assume, from knowing what I know about horses that have done similar.
Yeah.
No horsemanship knowledge there at all. Just as a long-term analyst who's seen patterns.
Is that
the safe thing is 6 weeks off.
It sounds more of it's a lesson as a father, really. By the end of the 6 weeks, they're absolutely, please just get back
Get out, back to school.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sick of the sight of you.
But it is an interesting thing about how big she ran at Ascot, in that it sort of just really underlines how big that performance was. Horses, we get quite used to horses coming out and just sort of churning them out at the top level. Whereas it does leave a mark on some of them. And you get your kind of freaks that can just do it time and time again, but they can't all do that.
We see, again, I know we constantly compare to other sports, but I do think that horse racing does have this, we're different kind of air. And it's like, you're not really. And that's kind of half the mistake. But for example, European Championships, and then seeing people get to the final of European Championships and then go, right, you've got to start playing at the top level in the Premier League, a week on Sunday. And you can't, how can you physically do that? And horses, like I said, you get prepped for that big performance, you put it all in on the track, you go through that pain barrier, the adrenaline, everything that goes into winning a big performance. And the horses can't turn around and go, I'm still feeling this a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Not today, thanks.
Yeah.
And some do that, to be fair.
Some do that, yeah.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Just, why aren't they going in the stalls? It's like, I've told you, this is me telling you I ain't ready. Other things to mention from Newmarket, we'll get onto the sprinters in a second. But of course, it's quite a nice track to spot a decent newcomer or two. And you're the man to talk about this, Matt Gardner, because Epictetus?
I'm glad you went first with a pronunciation attempt, because I'm not sure. But
I think Epictetus is how I describe my mum's roasties.
The show's just gone too Yorkshire. Two Yorkshire lads, stop.
Epictetus, mother. Absolutely. Epictetus. Really impressive. We've lost Keith Melrose. He's gone. You're a Yorkshireman now.
I know.
You're an honorary Yorkshireman. Go on, give the accent a go. Go on, give a Yorkshire accent a go.
No. No. That was, you just made the vowels really long.
Yeah, no, that's quite yeah.
No.
Bit more. That's a bit more.
That was a bit more Hull, maybe, if anything.
Yeah, it's probably a bit more East Riding.
East Riding, yeah.
See,
I've even got this subtlety. Oh, I hate myself.
There's the pull quote for the show. Epictetus. I've got into a hole now. Please, Matt, take this on. Race won by Noble Truth and New Spirit the past couple of years, so it does potentially set you up for a group horse.
Yep.
Even the second horse is from the family of famous name as well, and the winner down was very, very good, wasn't it? Thistlebird, and it was a pretty Polly winner in her time. So the pedigree was there. The performance was eye-popping.
Yeah, it's a race that, like I say, throws up good ones. To be fair, the pedigree was there for quite a few of them in that race.
Yeah.
The sixth, the Johnson horse, was one of the few with experience in that race. Ran to 84 first time out and has repeated that in just a much deeper race.
Yeah.
99 RPR for the winner, which first time out is big. If you tap in the 100 mark, that's big for a first time out.
I think it's only Bradsell that's topped that first time out this year, isn't it?
A Noble Godolphin, yeah.
Style.
Noble Style,
Yeah.
yeah.
Come to later on.
Yeah, the first six are probably winners in waiting in that race, and there's a few in behind, maybe not quite so well bred, that might be sort of buried away for nurseries or that sort of thing later on. But yeah, Noble Truth 96, winner of that race. Youth Spirit 93, so puts the 99 into a bit of context.
It's an angle you don't hear maybe as much as you should. You hear about back-end maidens at Newmarket and Newbury being big races to watch, but we don't maybe hear it as often that the maiden races that don't make ITV at the big meetings, they tend to be like red hot, don't
Chocker.
they? Yeah, well, there's going to be some at Goodwood. The ones at Goodwood are always really hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certain trainers start their best in those races. Same at York. The York maidens during the big meetings, Kevin Ryan always sends his best there.
There's that one in August, isn't there? The valuable one that you just know that.
Trivial.
Yeah, everyone. Appleby always sends one to it, doesn't he? They target them at that race.
Yeah.
And,
So back ends and maidens at big meetings, basically. Keep an eye out for those.
Last thing to mention for Newmarket then was, of course, the July Cup at the weekend. Keith Melrose, the man to my right, who's currently going through an existential self-loathing crisis. And it might well continue if he keeps having to watch the sprinters all year, because Matt Gardner's not particularly impressed with them. Alcohol-free was your winner, beat Naval Crown. There we go. I had such a decent bet on him. I forgot his name out of frustration. And Artorius back in third. So basically, we had the biggest sprint of the summer, Keith, won by a miler, beating another miler.
Yeah, is he a mile on Naval Crown? He was sevens his form, wasn't it, before?
Yeah, I mean, fourth in the Guineas, wasn't he?
He was fourth in the Guineas, I've forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, alcohol-free, we know she was a good horse last year, or you're not on her that much, were you? But she won some, she turned up and beat Poetic Flair, she won at Ascot, she had a...
She's a multiple Group 1 winner.
She's now is that three-time Group 1 winner now?
That's three now, yeah.
So, she's obviously a very good horse. What I thought was really interesting about watching Alcohol-Free on Saturday, I watched her in the Platinum Jubilee, and was she a sprinter? And she didn't even travel as well as Kinross, who she's a better horse than. And I thought, well, if she's not travelled through the race like that horse, she mustn't be a sprinter.
Yeah.
But she...
Even though, or like you said, last year everyone went, well, she's not a miler.
Yeah, she's a 7 furlong horse or a sprinter. But then on Saturday, Naval Crown went really hard. I think Naval Crown went the pace to... Les Dawson had a word in the ear, so he went off.
Said, look, you stay further.
Make sure it's a good... So, but Alcohol Free just sat off him all
Yeah.
the way through and coped with that pace no problem.
Well, she managed to lay up with Naval Crown, and other sprinters were completely taken out of their comfort zone.
Perfect Power was never going a yard. Flaming Rib was going as hard as he could all the way. He was on the wrong side. But there was lots of fast horses that couldn't go that pace, but Alcohol Free could. And it was an interesting one because she didn't look like a sprinter at Ascot, but all of a sudden she did at Newmarket, which is even faster, really, as a track, as we've discussed. So, maybe with hindsight, I know Paul Keeley kept the faith in her, so he got his rewards. Do you maybe let the horse acclimatise to that sort of test sometimes? That you can't put in a blanket rule. I hate the equivalent one with wind up, second time wind up. Isn't it? Maybe for some horses. Yeah. Well, it's second time you need to watch. No, it's not. Sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it's not.
Has anyone shown the stats for third, fourth and fifth time? Because suddenly then they disappear off the race card and you can't measure it.
Yeah, somebody will have somewhere. But
Hello, Andrew Mount. There's a button you press somewhere and he comes through with stats.
Andrew definitely would have done that one.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, but with some horses, and maybe Alcohol Free's turned out to be one of them, they need that experience to let them know what's expected of them, because she'll be used to coming out the stalls and going, right, I've got 30 seconds here to do what I like, whereas this 6 furlong sprint, it's out, it's go.
And must have been helped as well by the fact that the man on the back was full of confidence at that point and like, I know how to ride this track this week.
Yes.
And if I can get her into this position, we're sitting pretty.
I think he knew what to do as well in terms of who to follow.
Yeah,
as soon as he saw the way Naval Crown started that race,
absolutely
get
nailed
behind
it,
him.
didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it helps if you're drawn practically right next to it, but still.
Well, you've got to make the most of it though, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Artorius couldn't. You've put here, Matt, the absolute state of the domestic sprinters.
I thought that was you.
No, that's not me. That's it's a rare Matt Gardner yellow text.
And it's a rare Matt Gardner rant this as well. I'm going to watch this.
Yeah, that's summed up my thoughts on the sprinters. So just did a little bit. I'm a little cold on them, basically. I mean,
little?
Yeah. So Nature Strip obviously was impressive at Ascot, 129 RPR.
Different species, wasn't he?
7-year-old Australian horse having his 35th start or whatever he was. Go back over the last 10 years. Battash, Blue Point, 129 and 127. Obviously, Battash really good. Blue Point, good at Ascot and Maidan. Maybe a little helped by Battash, but anyway. And then Harry Angel, 127, 128, and Mahara, 127. Other than that, you're struggling for sprinters getting within £5 of Nature Strip. So it's not only a lack of quality kind of now, it's a lack of quality really and depth over the last 10 years that we've had. And I was a bit cold on Alcohol Free last year. I sort of thought the story got run away with a little bit over her form and that sort of thing. I know she beat Poetic Flair, but there wasn't that much in behind in the Sussex. And we were quite positive here. She's 123 RPR. She gets the allowance as well, so that sort of paints it in a slightly better light historically. But
that puts her up with just about Harry Angel Blue Point.
There or thereabouts with the £3, yeah. It's just, I just don't think she was beating much. And historically, I think the sprinters, over the last 10 years, they've just been a distinct lack of depth and lack of quality.
The horses you mentioned there, two of them are Shadwell. Shadwell have always had the faster horses out of all those big breeding operations, and 2 are Godolphin. I think they bought some of them as well, Godolphin. So,
Juddmonte... Harry Angel wasn't initially.
No, he was bought, wasn't he? Yeah. So Juddmonte have never had a horse like that since African Rose, I don't think.
No, probably not.
Last good sprinter.
Bated Breath.
He bated breath, I suppose.
Coolmore they had 10 sovereigns, but other than that, being a little short.
And as soon as Coolmore get one, as we've discussed before, they send them straight to stud because they want to produce them.
Yeah.
And it's only once Cadamosto, who did he sire a good one at the weekend? Did he sire Tenebrism? Not Cadamosto, Caravaggio.
Yep.
He's sire Tenebrism, isn't he? So, the horses need to be dam sires before they start getting really fast horses.
Second generation type.
Yeah, exactly.
So how long are we waiting for our sprinters to actually improve then?
Another 5 years, probably.
Yeah.
It's a long-term investment on a project.
5 years.
A project that gets billed as being short-termist and burning through them. It's going to take them 10 years to get there.
Sat here in 5 years going, I was right. That was it.
It's some 20s shot that I wouldn't have fancied with anybody's money. It happened to be Damsire Caravaggio, and I'm going, yes.
People are like, Keith, he's on this 5-year sprinter thing again. God, it's going to be a long 5 years. But in terms of other sprinters, though, we had other sprinters at the weekend who... Is it so weak that when anything comes out and actually wins a sprint in an impressive fashion, that people go, oh my God, this could be a new superstar? Because we had Royal Acclaim was fine, wasn't it?
Won very well. I mean,
it was fine. It's beat Mondomedge length in a listed race at York. It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Mondomedge is such a difficult horse because he would finish second in everything. He's like... He's finishing second to Eddie Merckx in some of those old pictures of the Tour de France from the 70s. He'd get a good pace.
Supreme novices next year.
Yeah, exactly. You'll just see him there, coming up the run end, just finishing second.
Yeah. Wait for me.
He's just that sort of horse. If they go 5 furlongs, get a good pace, Mondomedge is going to finish second because he loves to finish second. He's got a really good cruising speed.
He's fine. 5 furlongs fast ground in a big field. He'll just run the same race over and over again, which is fine.
Not even that. He'll run to a level where he loves to go past horses that are tiring and just. So he might have run to 100 to do it in a handicap and 110 to do it in a listed race.
So at the weekend, you had your Royal Acclaims, you had your Flotus, obviously, which you had mixed message with the Commonwealth Cup form, but. If she can...
I think the horses in the July Cup from the Commonwealth Cup can be excused. Flaming River was the wrong side, and you flagged up something really interesting about Perfect Power.
Perfect Power. Yeah. So watched the race and thought, lad, that's disappointing. But then on Twitter, they posted a head cam from Sumion, and it's really, really interesting. So just go and watch it if you've not seen it. He's next to Creative Force, is it the Godolphin horse? Quite early. He gets squeezed out, and all of a sudden he's 5 lengths behind Creative Force, which isn't the place to be at Newmarket, we know. Ground possibly, you said he was off the bridle a long way out. He was just never happy with something. And then in the last furlong, he's sort of at 7th centre of the track, and then he switches like 4 horses to his right. It's just, everything went wrong pretty much. So I'd completely scratched that off.
So I'm going to end up backing him for the Morris de Guest, unfortunately.
100%. Yeah.
But there's Harry 3 as well, who you mentioned, the 3-year-old form, that York handicap, where Did Lethal Levi win
he
that?
was fourth,
Yeah,
Lethal
yeah.
Levi, and Admiral D was sixth, finished second in that race. So that form got a boost on Thursday, and then Harry 3, who won it, came out, and he won in France. It was a Group 3 at Deauville on Sunday.
Which is that classic thing where this is the whole point of this show is to try and keep you up to date and kind of, you missed this, you might have missed this, don't miss this. But even the other day I was like, oh, for God's sake, Harry 3's got to win a group race. I knew he would.
I looked at the card and wrote it up and wrote about Harry 3 running, and I'm just gutted I missed that he was about 6 to 5 because I don't know the French form well enough, unfortunately. But he won that race very well. Garris won the earlier race over the same course and distance.
Yeah. I mean, if Garris is going over and winning...
Well, yes. He won in a better time than Harry 3, but what happened was that Harry 3's race was a much more steadily run.
Yeah.
So as the race quickens about 2 out, Harry 3's in trouble for about 3 strides, and then he runs the last furlong, because they do all the sectionals on the France Galop site, and he runs the last furlong half a second faster than anything else and puts 3 lengths into them.
I think you'll find we're in Yorkshire, so it's France Gallop.
France Galop.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I feel dirty now. But anyway, he put 3 lengths into that field in the last furlong, and it was all in the last furlong. I saw my emails that he'd been quoted at 20s for the Sprint Cup afterwards. I thought, I'll be having some of that. 12s by the time I got there.
Yeah.
So he is, but that's the thing with the sprint division, because where you're aiming for is so low, it's very possible that Harry 3 can be the next big thing. A horse who did that in a Group 3 over 1.5 miles isn't going to be in the King George. Whereas a horse that does it in a Group 3 over 6, he can be a Sprint Cup winner.
Which is a smaller step, yeah.
But it's the weakness and the strength of the division, isn't it? It's like you can get people emerging at that top level. Horses. I think we'd struggle because the bar isn't as high, which makes it disappointing in theory, but more exciting because you can follow a horse. You can follow a horse from a novice to a handicap to a Group 3 to top level form.
And it's why you shouldn't be too down when Mondemesh finishes second to you.
I mean, Matt's got more to say, but that's such a perfect end to that section that I'm going to cut it off here. And if it is interesting, we'll come back in a second. Find out. Before we go into the hot list, it is Royal Ascot Watch, which is a very short-lived section because by the time Glorious Goodwood comes around, well, we've got another festival that's usurped it, haven't we? But how are the horses doing out of Royal Ascot? We mentioned last week you could have backed them all blind and made a profit, which is fairly remarkable given that Royal Ascot form is there for all to see, and everyone said how good the festival was this year. In terms of winners last week, high-profile ones, Mighty Ulysses, Flotus, Morge, Persian Force, Deauville Legend, Prosperous Voyage, Chindit, and of course Alcohol Free, all came out of Royal Ascot and went on to win. There were others, of course, in handicaps as well. But in terms of races as well, the St James's Palace, 3 winners and a second from 4 runners out of that. The Windsor Castle's thrown up 3 winners and 3 placed horses. The Coronation, 3 winners and a placed horse from only 4 runners as well. The Albany, a couple of winners out of that. So a lot of the races we were getting excited about, and maybe not the ones that are throwing up winners, which kind of comes back to your lesson earlier on. But just a quick summary: how are we feeling? Royal Ascot Watch. What's the vibe?
It's when does it end? You know, when does it wear off? I mean, I thought the July meeting you would start to see it coming down a bit, but it's still persistent. You know, we said all 3 of the Group 1 winners last week all beaten at Royal Ascot, so it is still holding remarkable sway over the season.
It is, yeah. And like I said, there were a few handicaps. And the problem with the handicaps is you have 9 horses out of Royal Ascot run, and then 1 maybe comes out and wins. And to be fair, that goes for Thunder Beauty, for example, won at Pontefract, listed race last week. First 4 home all ran at Royal Ascot. But even then, I'm pretty sure you could have boxed it up and had the tri-cast if I remember rightly. But I just had a little bit more of a dig into this. Class 1 horses coming out into group or listed company, 12 winners from 78 runners. Average versus expected is 0.95. So
not necessarily value, but I mean you're beating it. Anything above like 0.9 is good but not profitable.
Yeah, quick summary of what that, because again, of what that means, by the way, for people.
It's basically an even money shot is half an expected winner. You total up all the SPs of the horses involved and you compare that with the actual value, and you can either divide it or subtract it, whichever you prefer by eye. Really, I find either or sort of it works just as well, and it just gives you an idea of value that's not skewed by like a 50 to 1 winner.
Yeah,
that's going to skew your P&L forever. basically. Whereas this A over E stuff and actual versus expected, it's a bit more solid.
Okay. Lower than Class 1, 16 winners from 123 at 0.82. So in terms of, you couldn't actually make a profit. However, if you placed or won at Royal Ascot next time out and then ran in Class 1 company but not in Group 1s, so basically the horses are coming out and they're repeating that level. You've run enlisted in Group 2 at Royal Ascot, you're coming up to that level next time out. 7 winners from 18, £7.75 level stake profit, actual expected 1.41. So what I'm feeling that tells you is that, yeah, the Group 1s are good, but we were saying a lot the 2-year-old races were good. That mid-level was red hot this year.
A Royal Ascot listed race Group 3 is better than a listed race Group 3 somewhere else, which is sort of intuitive, but again, like last week, seeing it written down, it's something that you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Royal Ascot Watch, 2022. This won't be here for much longer, so enjoy it while it lasts. This week's hot list, rounding up the races that are throwing up winners left, right and centre over the past 7 days, starts off with Nazaka, who won at the July Festival last week, doubling up, but it's the previous win, of course, that has started to work out nicely. Of course, the winner has gone in again. Divine Magic, a little bit further down the field, won next time out for Marco Botti. And there's a couple of interesting entrants this week, including Stunning Beauty at Ascot, and Knight Narcissus has got a couple of entries in sprints at Nottingham and Newmarket. So watch out for that, with 2 winners from only 2 runners so far from the race. The other one to mention is Later Rivals, win at Pontefract on the 27th of June. They came all the way over to the near side, sent off a huge price for the Mick Easterby stable, but has since followed up, and winners have started to come out of that contest. Round the Island, who was well beaten down the field for the Whittaker stables, also come out and won nicely too. And there's plenty entered in the week. Unsurprisingly, a few of them going back to Ponty on Friday. The winner, Later Rival, Mr. Orange and Twilight Secret all in that race. And Halton Ranger and Dream Together also have entries for a race that was run at a cracking pace and is starting to work out well. And going right down to the basement grade, 5 furlongs at Chepstow. Who knew that would be such red hot form? But the race won by Rhubarb on the 28th of June at Chepstow has started to work out well, with the winner going in again and a couple down the field franking that form as well. And even a couple of horses who stepped up to 7 at Foss Last ran quite well on Monday afternoon. So keep an eye on those coming out of that Rhubarb race, including Creek Harbour, who's got an interesting entry in a couple of days' time. That's this week's hot list. Hopefully it will work out nice and hotly. Now it's time for the projections section of the Flat Pack, where we start to get excited about the week ahead. The whole point of this show is to tell you that even on a so-called lower key week, there is always something exciting, even on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday, even you might miss, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to point you in the right direction and hopefully get excited about things that maybe go under the radar in such a bloated racing calendar. But coming up this week, we've got some interesting races. We've got 2 Group 1s and plenty of other group races and decent handicaps. And as we mentioned earlier on, the Super Sprint as well coming up at Newbury. We've got the Grand Prix de Paris at Longchamp. We've got the Glasgow Stakes up in Hamilton. So even a listed race on an evening in Scotland as well. You might miss that. And of course, we've got some red hot stuff from the Curragh, and like I said, every other track, Salisbury's, your Doncasters, everyone's getting involved. That's what the flat season's all about. But what stands out this week, gentlemen? We've got Longchamp, we've got Hamilton, we've got Newbury, we've got the Curragh. Where do you want to start? Well,
like when you say, the sort of motto of the show being every weekend is somebody's derby.
Yeah.
The Super Sprint's what you're thinking of, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
That is the weekend. You feel of it as the quietest Saturday the whole year, comes between the July meeting and the King George. But the Super Sprint used to have this rep, didn't it, of being the working man's race. Richard Fahey called it that last year.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he said it, I wrote a piece about it at the time. And I think the sort of rough points from it bear repeating again. They changed the conditions of the Super Sprint about 5 years ago. So that it's always, basically, for those that aren't aware, the Super Sprint, it's based on your auction price. If your horse cost like 63 grand a top, you'll carry your 9 stone 5 or whatever, and every increment down that you cost at auction, you cost less. And it used to be that any horse that cost less than 14 grand got 8 stone or something.
Oh wow!
Whereas now you've got to come free in a bag of Rice Krispies to get yourself into that sort of level. So, and as soon as they changed it was just like, it was like the butterfly effect. They had this wee change in the conditions, and immediately the high-weighted horses started doing much better. You don't get Tiggy Wiggy anymore. She won this race with nothing on her back when she was already group class years ago. She had, I don't know, or did she lost?
She carried the highest weight.
She had she put up a one massive performance. She was champion 2-year-old in the strength.
Yeah. She was, because I went back and she was the only one that carried I think she carried 9 stone. The only one who carried over 9 stone.
Yeah, that's right. Whereas there's loads of other horses that hadn't run at it.
Yeah.
Where they carried very little. They've shown almost group form and ended up.
Yeah.
So with the super sprint, you've got.
It was like buying a lottery ticket almost. It used to be, didn't it?
It used to be, and it's not anymore. So don't think of it like that. Hannon and Fahey still target it, so those yards are there to be looked at. And a lot of the other times, you do get smaller trainers that are going. They've either you've got 2 types of super sprint horses that they buy them for 20 grand and go, right, this is a super sprint horse because I bought it for 20 grand. Or you get the horses that they go, well, they only cost 20 grand and he's in the super sprint. Let's have a go at the super sprint.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting race. It tends not to, you don't get Derby winners coming out of it or anything. So the long-term utility isn't all that. But there are still going to be half a dozen horses in there at least for whom this has been the big red circle in the diary for months now.
Well, I mean, you go back and I just realised I was about to say something that would reveal a beat Keith answer later on. But one of the smaller yards that won it a few years ago, someone who I know from that yard, said that it pretty much, only the profile, but it also pays the bills for however many months. In terms of your handicap in the juveniles this year, Matt, so this is a tough race, I guess, for you to unfold. But there are, like you said, there are 2 types of super sprint winners. There's 2 horses dominating the bet, Maria Bramwell, and there's another one up there as well.
I can't remember off the top of my head. The Hannon one, isn't it? Miami Girl, is it?
Miami Girl, yes.
Miami Girl, she was quite short, yeah. It's so, I always fall into the trap of going kind of style over substance with this sort of horse and thinking, well, that looks quite fast and it's going to be suited by that. But basically,
is this your level of handicap?
Oh yeah,
that looks quite fast.
That's about as good as it gets. I mean, the draw can have a big impact. Big field, inexperienced horses. There can be a bias one side. We've seen that in years gone by. But basically, you get horses with group form that stand out like a sore thumb in this sort of race. And Maria Bramwell's at this time. She's probably going to be about £11 clear on race post ratings from Ascot, and obviously with the weight, like you say, that she's going to be coming in carrying. There are interesting horses that might run in it. Dare to Hope for Fahey looked really good on debut, then got beat under a penalty. But
I quite liked his other one as well, Claritina. I mean, didn't go right last time, but that Carlisle one was actually, I thought, was really impressive. They went a mad gallop. It was a good prep for a super sprint, I thought.
Yeah, but I think it's a race where you have to play the conditions rather than the way horses have been shaping in a way.
Yeah.
Some horses are so much more better advantage than others because of the conditions that it almost throws out the window thinking, that shaped up quite well last time, because when you're dealing with such big differences like 11, 12 pound that Maria Bramwell's probably got in hand over them, you can have to shape blooming well to overcome that type of thing.
I mean, she's about 3-1, 7-2 at the moment. I mean, she's got, everyone's like, this horse has got a stone in hand. I mean, she's literally got practically a stone in hand.
Best part of, yeah.
But if this was another sort of race, if this was a Guineas trial or something, she'd be 4-7.
Yeah.
Because these horses...
the sheer numbers in running there as well.
The number involved, the lack of experience, the whole... We just can't be as certain with these horses. It makes it a far more interesting betting heat.
It does, but in a way you can almost chalk off quite a few of them because they're just not good enough at the weights.
Absolutely.
So you can reduce... And
we've just been talking about how good that level of 2-year-old form was. Mm-hmm. So if you've got to get to the level, you've won a novice at first, whatever, and which is... I'm saying that like it's dismissive, but Maria Bramwell won a novice at third. Yeah. And then you go, let's go for the super sprint. And you've got to raise your game by what? 2 stone to meet the level of a horse who's receiving weight from you. I mean, unless it's really windy.
I mean, there's also this is a twice or 3 times race 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
She could just not run the same. There's only one of those. A trainer would phrase it as, you can't be scared of one horse.
Yeah. It's just, but Inspire was 1-7 last week, and you've been scared of one horse. Maria Bramwell's currently priced up at 7-2.
Well, yeah, if she was even money in this, you'd almost be thinking, look at one to get a beat.
Yeah.
But she should be a heck of a lot shorter than 72, definitely.
What else? Like you said, there's anything else in there that caught your eye? Like I said, Claretina was definitely up there for me.
Dare to Hope would be the one for me. Who
Beat Rocket
Rodney, true statesman who hosed up in a Chester nursery at the weekend.
Oh yeah.
I think there was another winner came out of it as well. Glorious Angel won at Redcar.
The Palmer horse,
Yeah. He missed 2 months after that debut, then went to Ripon and got beat by a debutante conceding weight. And things probably didn't go to plan for him to do that, because I sort of thought he'd pitch up at Ascot. He looked that good on debut.
It was the same week, and I kind of thought, why the hell are you going there?
Yeah.
And that was probably it's not gone. We're not ready for Ascot. We'll
Not
go
quite
for
gone to plan, yeah. But
we're in the super sprint like every other 2-year-old.
he's the sort of horse that could take that step,
Yeah.
I think, because of how good he looked on debut and how that form's worked out.
Okay, so what's the take? How I think we're kind of we're disagreeing with you in the sense that we're kind of saying actually you need to undercomplicate this and go. There's going to be 28 horses who have no chance of winning this or whatever. So.
Oh yeah, there is. I mean, you're not going to run at 75 and win it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't need to necessarily be group class immediately.
Yeah.
You can
But
be.
you
in
still
between.
need to be on that threshold, don't you?
You need to be a 9500 horse. Yeah, you need to be. Yeah, there's a level that you need to be at, definitely. Especially given that nothing's carrying less than 8 stone 5 this year.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of 2-year-old form as well, the horse that kind of set the stopwatches ablaze early on, which never really works out, does it? In juveniles over the past few years, the Visionaries of this world.
Yeah.
But Noble Style, who beat a lot of very good horses at Ascot, including Wallbank and the
Royal Scotsman.
Royal Scotsman, yeah, of course, was in there as well. That one's entered in the Rose Bowl on Friday. Again, missed Ascot with a problem. Might be a bit Dare to Hope in the sense of let's go for a lower grade, but you could have the best 2-year-old this weekend could.
Yeah,
Not be in the super sprint.
He looked special on debut, didn't he, at Ascot? He looked really good. The time was good. The closing sectional was really good. And Wallbank's 100. He's now 104 RPR. Royal Scotsman's 107.
Yeah.
It stacks up visually and on the book as well. So if he is okay, he could be kind of Royal Ascot level.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, this is a horse that was favourite for the Coventry, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not. Yeah, there's time to win that and then go to Goodwood, isn't it? Or York, maybe?
Yeah. I suppose, yeah. It depends on...
Go for a gym crack?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that would be ideal, I suppose, for him, actually, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, really exciting horse, definitely.
Okay, keep an eye on that then in the Rose Bowl on Friday. As for the rest of the week, the Hamilton Glasgow Stakes, worth mentioning
You keep mentioning that. Is this commission here?
3 subsequent, but this is the whole point of the show. Is
Okay.
that you've got an evening. Everyone else would miss that race.
I saw it on the running order and I thought, what's he going on about this show for? I even looked at the previous winners. Go on, tell me where the good ones are.
Defoe, postponed,
Oh, yeah,
Subjectivist.
that's right.
You've had 3 Group 1 winners, subsequent Group 1 winners win that in the past 10 years.
and it's the right
you
sort of
name me a
yard.
race this week that's thrown up more subsequent Group 1 winners.
Grand Prix de Paris.
That's a Group 1. That's not fair.
You said name it right.
Yeah,
Come on,
fair
mate.
enough.
No, you're right.
That'll
actually.
throw up more Group 1 winners than the Super Sprint, the Hackwood Stakes, the Steventon Stakes.
I remember looking at it at the
more
time.
of those.
And
Glasgow Stakes.
Glasgow Stakes. It's the yards those horses came from as well to note.
Yeah.
Johnson, Varian, was it Kamani had postponed?
No, they're both varying, weren't they? Yeah.
Both Varian.
Historically, I think Kamani's done... Going back a
Yeah.
while.
But it's those sort of yards, so that's the sort of horse you're looking for, basically. You're not. These are the late developing middle distance horses.
Yeah. But I'm all over that Hamilton Glasgow
yeah.
Stakes. So it costs a lot. And it's red hot. Do you know how much it costs to get a ticket to Hamilton?
I dare not think.
It was a joke. You didn't even get it, did you?
No.
You're not.
I'm off it today. I'm off it.
Uncultured. So uncultured. Hamilton.
The show.
musical.
Yeah.
Deary me. Anyway, okay, moving on to the Grand Prix de Paris, as they don't say in France. Group 1. There's a Group 1 this weekend. Not even this weekend. It's Thursday night, isn't it?
Yeah.
At Longchamp, small field potentially, but El Bodegon coming out the Verdani form, of course. Eldar Eldarov, Royal Ascot form, Pisbadil, both derbies there. L'Astronome is beautifully bred and is improving for the Graffard stable. And you might have a little up your sleeve.
If you can be under the radar in a 5 or 6 runner, don't.
It was the whistling there.
Yeah.
I was just like, is that?
So I got so excited by the Glasgow Stakes, I don't know what to,
Right,
I don't know what to say.
You carry on now,
Yeah.
Matt. I'm disturbed, but I'll have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, no, if you can be under the radar in a 5 or 6 runner race, Ernesto might be it. You know, you mentioned El Bodegon. Elder I'm looking forward to seeing. I think he'll cope with the drop back in trip. But Ernesto was further back in that jockey club. He was 5th. He was really impressed with Group 2 the time before in a really steadily run race. He came from miles back, showed a really good turn of foot. Did the same in the jockey club, but was even further back and bigger field and better race and all that sort of thing. Stepping up in trip, if he has that turn of foot, and it might be a bit of a mess back because not loads of obvious pace on, he could be the sort of horse.
Welcome to Longchamp, right?
Yeah, exactly.
French racing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could be the sort of horse that might not be as good as some of those ultimately, but will be seen to better effect. And sort of don't underplay that. You know, he was 5th in a jockey club, and the Group 2 worked out quite well as well. So, yeah, hard to be under the radar in a small field race, but he might be the one.
It's an interesting sort of dynamic they've got in France, because obviously the French Derby technically is the Prix du Jockey Club, but it's not. It's a mile 2.5 now.
Yeah.
Same weekend as the Derby.
This is our French Derby.
Well, yeah, some people will come and tell you, oh, the real French Derby is the Grand Prix de Paris, but what they're finding, the same problem we're having in Britain and Ireland a little bit, in that you've not got the numbers to go round all these races. The King Edward VII had a disappointing field this year, you know, whereas everybody goes to the Derby because it's the Derby, and everybody went to the Jockey Club because it's the Jockey Club. And the Grand Prix de Paris probably got a better record of producing ARC horses in recent years than the Jockey Club. But that's not a great field this year. You'd be surprised if the ARC winner came out of that. Mm-hmm. But in most years, it's a damn good race and well worth watching. And I might well back that horse because I don't like the horses in that race that I knew.
Yeah. Well, we've got to now, haven't we? You'll be absolutely kicking yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Unless it'll be priced at 4 to 6 now. It'll be like everyone's seen it piled in.
Should I apologise in advance when it falls out the back of the telly?
Yeah. No, it's all right.
No, okay.
According to the algorithms, no one gets to this point in the show, so it's all right. The Curragh this weekend as well, of course, at the Irish Oaks, where Emily Upjohn will be potentially coming back for another bite at Tuesday. We've got the Epsom form, we've got Longchamp form as well, we've got Ascot form all going head to head. Record of horses coming straight from Epsom to this is 12 winners from 49 runners. The Pretty Polly has thrown up 2 from 30, and the Ribblesdale 2 from 42, which is shocking, quite frankly. And if you'd backed the first and second favourite blind in the past 25 years, you would have made a tiny profit, which tells you quite a lot, really, doesn't it? In the sense of, I mean, we were talking about the super sprint now being top heavy.
It tells you about the lads like to get tucked in, doesn't it?
Yeah, fair. 33% of the last 25 races have been won by the first and second favourite, and you would have made a profit if backing them by. Although strictly, you made a much better profit if you just backed the second favourite. But the point remains that just backing those at the head of the market isn't a bad angle.
Well, we said after the Oaks, that division lacks depth.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you're not looking for dangers behind because they're no good, generally speaking.
This year, you could have, like you said, you could have a Ribblesdale winner, you could have the Prix d'Am winner, you could have the Epsom 1-2, and then maybe 1 or 2 others in there. So in theory, you could actually have decent form lines.
We'll see how deep that division is then.
Yes. It's a proper test. It's a proper test of that this week.
It'd be interesting then, Little Joe, won't it? Because everything about that Oaks told you that she's the much better filly. Whether it was sort of the start, the wide trip, the sectionals, all that sort of thing. Whether she sort of does confirm that theory, I suppose.
Yeah, she looked better than Tuesday. I didn't think there was huge amounts in it at the time, but Tuesday's obviously come out and not run that well in the Irish Derby. So I think that's putting a big thing into the price.
Yeah, I mean, put it in the race, but let's not get too carried away with that. I mean, she had no chance. She had no chance from where she was, and up against the horses she was up against. So keep an eye on the Irish Oaks this weekend. And also, I mean, you thought the Glasgow Stakes was good. What about the Bell Ringer handicap for Ripon? Am I right? It was just because it was an interesting angle. And also, we're in Yorkshire, and this is the flat pack. So Tim Easterby, past 5 years of the Bell Ringer handicap, 15 grand to the winner on a Saturday where everyone else is looking elsewhere. Second first, second first.
But that's exactly what you should be doing if you've got a lot of 90 rated horses like Easterby does.
Yeah. Well, he must have about 100 horses in every ratings band. I've never been to Tim Easterby stable, but I can only imagine it's probably got its own currency. It's that big. But Bolin Joan is entered again. Interesting, they've run her quite a few times since she last won at Ripon, which has taken a few handy pounds off the back.
Oh, wow.
So, what's the most interesting thing as we wrap up the weekend? What's your big weekend for the week? The big weekend for the week. The big angle for the week.
Yeah, I mean, Super Sprint will dominate for me, I suppose. And I mean, that Maria Bramwell price to me is just all wrong. So hopefully that is the right idea.
Keith Melrose?
We've got the Hankwood Stakes on Saturday, haven't we? So since the duty's out, that Haggis sprinter that looks like she could be going for the top. I think there's some deadwood in that market, and then we've got other interesting ones.
Happy Romance, Rohan.
Yeah, Rohan I can't really have at those prices. Diligent Harry I think he needs a go at 5. He obviously that's his 6 on Saturday. But this race has got a reasonable record of producing horses that feature in the back end, 6 furlong Group 1s. You've had winners in recent years that have gone on to win the Sprint Cup, that have gone on to win the Champions Sprint. And Sense of Duty obviously is the one that you're hoping can go and do that this time.
Because she has a proper Ascot run style as well, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, just absolutely powers through. Got a great attitude as well.
Yeah.
So I'll be excited to see her. I hope enough turns up to make it a good test for her, and then we get to see if she is a proper competitor in these big back end sprints.
Lovely stuff. Enjoy the weekend. As Boys to Men once sang, we've come to the end of the show. We end every show with Beat Keith, everyone's favourite game show, where Keith Melrose, the man to my right, poured into those silks, is challenged once again by a very tired and recalcitrant Matt Gardner in an attempt to answer trivia questions that I have spent way too long preparing. And you absolutely mullered him last week.
What was it, 6-3, I think the thing said.
Yeah.
I wanted to be...
It was boys versus men, wasn't it?
He's in... Yeah.
Very good.
Played the long game there, didn't you? Lovely job. You could tell you're a pro.
There you go. Well, you know the format by now. 10 questions with buzzers at the ready. You ready? There we go. It's provided an editing challenge. First one to buzz in to do with last week or this week's racing. Starting off with the July Festival. Which jockeys rode 3 winners each last week? An excitable Keith Melrose.
Buick.
Yeah.
Oh, may I get 2 of them, huh?
Yes.
All right.
Well, you don't get the answer.
All right, Buick and Hornby.
There you go. Buick and Hornby it was. 1 point for Keith. Okay, Pat Dobbs, baby. Pat Dobbs won the Summer Mile on Chindit at Ascot at the weekend. But how many Group 1 winners has he ridden? Matt Gardner.
2.
Oh, it's not 2.
1.
It is 1. 1. Bonus point if you can name it. It's come up on the show before.
Is it? No. Cavercliffs?
Peathers Moon.
Peathers Moon.
Won the Coronation Cup for Pat Dobbs several years ago. Okay, so here we go. Plenty of yards are now under dual licences, but which one has trained the most winners this year? Keith Melrose.
Charlie and Mark Johnson.
It was Charlie and Mark Johnston. Matt, you just buzz in and let your brain answer the question after you buzz, because that's what Keith does. He just doesn't even know the answer until he's hit that. Anyway, there we go. Another one.
No coaching, please.
No what?
No coaching.
Sorry, I apologise.
You need a head start at this, right?
Come on. Flotus won the Summer Stakes at York at the weekend. But what is the first name of the current Flotus?
Jill.
It is Jill.
Dr. Jill Biden.
It is Dr. Jill Biden, who I know is...
I didn't know that until the press, to be honest with you.
I had no idea which direction that question was going.
That's the point. There we go. Thanks for watching, Jill, by the way. Hope you're well. Peter Chapel-Hyam had a debutant 2-year-old win at the weekend. But what year did this last happen?
2013?
Nope, not 2013.
2015.
It was 2017.
Oh, way more.
I believe you have.
That's done him a disservice.
2.
Yeah, you have done him a disservice, yeah. Okay, the Super Sprint, aside from Fahey and Hannon, name the 3 trainers who've won the Super Sprint in the last decade. Melrose.
Millman. Have I got to get all 3 again?
You've got to get all 3 again, otherwise you hand it over to Gardner.
All right. I'll best pass it. I don't want to give him any ammunition. I've only got one. I'll look at Rod Millman.
Watson?
It wasn't.
No.
Melrose.
Portman won it.
Portman. One more. He's already come up on the show as well.
Burrows.
It wasn't Burrows. It was Tim Easterby.
Easter.
With Body and Soul, I think it was. Was it Body and Soul?
Oh yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay.
That'll be all of 10 years ago, won't it, nearly?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. The Irish Oaks this weekend, but which trainer has won the race 3 times from only 4 runners in the past 25 years, but not since 2010? Gardner.
Saeed Binsara.
It's not Saeed Binsara.
Ed Dunlop.
Ed Dunlop! Correct, Ed Dunlop.
I was sitting there, I can't believe I'm going to say Ed Dunlop here.
Yeah.
But
That's the point, Ed Dunlop, baby. The Hankwood Stakes this weekend coming up. Look at him, he's already ready to go. But 2019's Hankwood Stakes was won by a 33-1 shot from which country?
Germany.
It was Germany.
It's that thing that turns up at Ascot, isn't it?
Was it Moser? No.
Yeah, was it blue colours? It is Moser, I think.
Yeah, there you go. And final question here, the Irish Oaks again. Snowfall won last year's Irish Oaks, but can you name a single horse that she beat?
Probably not.
No. Can that be the answer? No.
The correct answer is no. Nobody can. Nobody can.
No, I was going to try and
Come on,
dig
have a
in
go.
that.
Come on, Gardner. You failed miserably. Have a go. Have a crack. Throw a dart.
No idea.
No.
Oh, no.
Just pick a nice word.
What's
It'll be
that
a
thing?
Balco.
What's that thing of Varians that got retired? She came good later in the year.
No, don't worry about it. Anyway, it was Divinely Nicest, Willow, Party House, La Joconde, A Handful of Summers, and Mariesque.
You could have just made them up at the end.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known.
It was Hugh Pugh, Barney McGrew.
Christ's Chin.
Exactly. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more of those. Okay, I think. Oh, it's tight. Producer Dan. It might well have been Keith Melrose. Keith remains not unbeaten. You have been beaten once.
I was beaten in the old penalty shootout format.
You were, but since you put the silks on.
That's not double, is it?
Yeah, that was it. Well done, guys. Well done, Guy. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Matt Gardner. You just need to press that, but just press the buzzer. Think about it when you.
It's not that. That's not the issue. That's the issue.
Fair. Okay. I'm not sure how we can solve that. If there's any mad scientists watching at home and you've got a spare brain for Matt Gardner, do get in touch. But well done, Keith.
Thanks.
If you're not here, are you not here next week?
I'm off next week, and I'm gonna have a long, hard look at myself ahead of.
Shock therapy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which means who will get a chance to beat Keith next week? A new challenger rises to the ranks as Matt Gardner goes home to cry himself to sleep. That's pretty much the end of the flat pack for another week. Guys, thank you very much. I'll see you next week. You have a nice life.
Is that it now?
That's it?
Yeah.
You've disappointed me so much. You're out the door.
Gone.
Thank you to producer Dan as well for his sterling work as ever. And if you've got to the end of this show, then well done. You're the person. Get it all the way to the end. And the magic word is Triceratops. First person to put that at the bottom means that you've got to the end of the show. Watch this and you will win a prize. What will it be? I haven't thought that far ahead. So this bit might get edited out. Bye-bye.